Okay, good evening. I will now call this last meeting of the 2023-2026 Maple Hills Council to order. First order of business is confirmation of quorum. Madam Clerk, do we have quorum?
We do have quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next is declaration of conflicts of interest. Does anybody have any conflicts to declare? No. Okay. So the next item is the adoption of the agenda. It would now take a motion to adopt in its current form. So moved by Deputy Mayor Savoy, seconded by Councillor Esty.
Sure.
Are we ready for the question?
Question.
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of adopting the agenda in its current form show your consent by saying yes.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. So this evening's topics are to do with the audit and appointment of auditor. That's all that's on the agenda. And the first item is the financial statement for 2025. Do we want, does CAO Downey want to speak first, or are we going to go?
No, that's okay. We have Sarah here, yeah.
My name is Serge Shaw from Bookshop Boutet. I'm just going to start with the general operating fund. So if you could go to page 2. The second page of the report, not income. Perfect. Next one. So your total revenues this year was $6.5 million compared to a budget of $6.2 million. So it's $290,827 more than you had budgeted. Your expenditures were $6,089,000 compared to $6,235,000 that you had budgeted. So there's a difference of $145,000. So that brings you with a surplus this year of $436,000 compared to last year, $240,000. I'm just going to go through a couple of lines on the revenue side. So the revenue side, your building permits was $215,000 compared to $97,000 that you had budgeted. So it's $118,000 more than you had budgeted. Rental income, you had $122,000 and budgeted $48,000. Most of that money was from TH Sports. I think you had $113,000 from them, $8,000 a month plus additional collections for special items. The interest, you had not budgeted that. That was the $11,968. Miscellaneous, $15,000. That's actually a recovery from TH Sports as well to cover part of the seasonal workers that the province didn't cover. We'll see that later on. The government grants, $58,800. Those are mostly offset by additional expenditures as well, so it's not a direct surplus. Now we can go department by department. So next page, page 3. For general government, excuse me, your budget was $1,012,000 and you spent $990,000. So you spent $22,000 less than you had budgeted. And the last line is seasonal wages, $24,000. That was actually recouped by the province, $15,000, or the province $11,000 and $15,000 from TH Sports. And I think comparable to last year, probably more. We were pretty much fully staffed for the entire year. There was no breaks like last year. Protective services increased a lot compared to last year just because of the RSMP that you're now paying. So you budgeted $1,850,000 and you spent $1,050,000 through 4 invoices from the province. The next page, transportation services. I think the only difference was there is probably street lights that cost $22,000 less than budgeted. The next few are pretty much identical to the budget: environmental health and development services. Recreation, that one you spent $17,800 less than you budgeted. The management was pretty close. The community center, you spent a little bit more, so that's why there's only a $17,000 different. Next page is fiscal services, so that's a little bit new this year as well, because now you have the $2.7 million debt that debenture that you got this last spring. So during the year, you paid $57,000. And for that new debenture, 61,000 was interest on financing for the old ICC and, well, the ICC project and the parking lot project. It was the interest on the line of credit during the construction. $22,000 was the discount that they charged you for issuance of the debenture. Reserve contribution, you had budgeted 125, and you actually made contributions for $160,000. And capital fund, these are additional amounts that you contribute from the general operating fund to the general capital fund, $8,000. So that's just summary of the general operating fund. I don't know if there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions for our auditor?
Still very positive because, and that surplus will be a surplus in 2027. So then you'll just do what you want in 2027 with that surplus. It'll be recognized 2 years from now. So you can, if you want, you can put in reserves, anything that year.
Okay, Councillor Jean.
If we had determined that something was going to cost something this year, but the payment just was delayed, and so
It's accrued. It's still accrued. Well, if you expense even if you didn't pay, it doesn't matter. But if
Okay.
you didn't do the project, then it's going to be carried. That's a new budget for next year. But even if you incurred the expense and didn't pay, it's still an expense though.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? No?
So the next statement, the consolidated statement, I just want to go through maybe a couple of notes. So page 19. Couple more, yeah. So these are your reserve balances. So, yeah, no problem.
No, go ahead. I'm just gonna make it quiet.
So as of 2024, your reserve balances were $238,000. You made resolutions in December to put another $160,000 in your reserve. Your interest was $4,900, so your new balances are $403,000 for both general operating and general capital. General capital doesn't have any limits, but general operating has a limit of 5% of your previous year operating expenditures. So based on 2024, your limit was 192,000, so you're at 189, so you're on side this year, but just maybe don't put another 40,000 next year, then you'll just go offside. Note 10 on page 13. This is probably new this year as well. It's now that you have a pension plan, so you have an accumulated surplus now of $30,600, which is just on the consolidated statements. It doesn't affect your general operating fund. It's just on the statements. And basically, what it means is, based on the assumptions of returns and life expectancies, for the current employees, the future cost will be $136,000. You have $85,000 in your plan, but there's unrealized gains of $81,000. So you actually have a surplus of $30,000. And that won't affect any payments or anything like that. It's just keep track to make sure there's no large deficits. So right now you have a surplus of $30,000, which, like I said, doesn't change anything. It's just not for our statements, we have to recognize that amount. Next one on page 11. That's just new as well. It's your new long-term debt now that you have $2.7 million, which is, I think, $200,000 for the equipment ministerial order and $2.5 million for the ICC project that you went financing for. Next one is page 15, excuse me, note 12. I went through Anna with that on Mondays. When you went to get your financing for the equipment ministerial order, your ministerial order was 250, but you only actually spent 137,000 over the last 3 years, but you only went to get 200,000. So it created a surplus in your capital fund of $62,000. And for the community center, your ministerial order was 2.5 million, which you did go get the full amount, but your actual expenditures for the municipality was only 1.8 million. So that created another surplus of 648,000. So right now, in your general capital fund, you have a surplus $710,000 that you can use for future capital projects. It's all, like the funding is already there. You don't have to do a resolution or anything. It's just like in the future, if you have capital project, you don't have funding for, you have 710,000 that's already there. So that's new this year, and I think we just disclosed that you're going to spend that over the next few years. We have some municipalities that maybe 10 years it takes to, because when you get debentures, you don't get the actual amount. Usually there's a rounding, and that creates the surpluses. So right now for you guys,
So-
you have $711,000.
Can I just make a
Yep.
point of clarity for anybody that's following online or that watches after? When we refer to the ICC project or the community center, it is the Maple Hills Moncton Kia Center.
Okay.
Just so
Yeah.
nobody,
Yeah.
we didn't take a separate, we're not doing anything to the other building, it's just, I
Oh, yeah,
know,
yeah, okay, yeah.
I knew what you meant, but
Yeah.
just for clarity for anyone else, that it's not a separate project that we're doing with the other building, it is this
Okay.
building.
And one more thing is probably like capital expenditures during the year. Your total expenditures this year was $1,308,000. 80,000 to complete this building. 21,000 for furniture and equipment. 83,000 for sports equipment, and 1,123,000 for the parking lot, which is really nice. There, less money than last year. And funding for that, general operating fund paid 69,000 out of that, and most of it was interest. You paid interest on that line of credit. CCFBF plan, your 2024-28 plan, you took out 1,121,000 for the parking lot. 75, well, I actually got 100,000 from Medivi and gave $25,000 percent to TH Sports, so 75,000 came from Medivi. And the balance for the two debentures was 42,000 out of that amount that I said earlier on. And I think that parking lot at the end of the year, it was still a work in progress, so that wasn't finalized yet. But we did finalize the new building and the sports equipment.
Anyone have any questions now? Okay. They were easy on you, I guess.
Yep, perfect.
I can maybe add a comment if I can, just for, so where we talked about the capital surplus, so if there's things that come up with this building, there's approximately, well, there's almost 600,000 there, for this building, so like a roof repair, anything like that, that's where the funds will come from, that already funded capital budget.
Councillor Esty?
I'm not sure if during the presentation, if the financials were on the screen, but one thing you said was the street lights, I believe, were 22,500, but it actually showed 2,250. So we didn't spend 22.5 on street lights. I believe it was 2250.
Actually, what he said was, we budgeted, yeah, we budgeted 163 and we spent 141. So the 22,000 he was referring to was what we didn't spend.
That amount there, yes. Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Esty, the 2250 is, it's for street signs.
Oh,
It's-
signs,
It's, yeah, it's
sorry.
kind of
Yeah,
hard because there's no line, but the 2250 is street lines
Okay.
that we didn't.
The
Okay.
22,000 was, yeah, what we
Okay, no,
budgeted versus what
I
we spent.
understand.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, well, thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
So do we have somebody who would like to move the motion on the adoption of the audit? Okay.
Be it resolved that Maple Hills Council accepts the financial report of auditor account for the 2025 fiscal year as presented by Mr. Serge Richard, CPA of Book Richard Bouteau, PC Inc.
Do I have a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Martin. Are we ready for the question?
Question.
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of accepting the financial reports as presented, show your consent by saying yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. So the next item is the appointment of the auditor. So do you have any comments you'd like to make before we? Okay.
Thank you, Serge. Let me just, I'm sorry, gotta open up my e-scribe. Do I have notes there, Madam Clerk? No? Okay, so I think my only comment would be what is, what we've proposed in the actual motion itself. That staff undertook a review process of contacting multiple auditing firms to determine interest availability, qualifications, and competitive pricing for municipal audited services. Several firms advise that they do not do municipal audit services. Most of the reasoning was that all of the municipalities are asking for the same, like the same timeline, because we all have the same, so they have a capacity where they can only take on, you know, a few. And municipal apparently is a little more complicated. There's also a lot of time that the actual auditor has to put into work, because we are not CPAs. So there's a lot of hours that they have to put into the preparing for the audit. Apparently, we don't do everything perfect, so they have to prepare our adjustments, like our manual journal entries to for the adjustments. So we are putting the recommendation forward to continue with Bourque Richard Bouteau. And that's our recommendation, so it's up to how council would like to proceed, as far as how many years we sign up with them. There's also the possibility where we could request a separate auditor within that auditing firm. So whether, like, Serge does it for one more year, and then he works with a different auditor to sort of train them in our books, and then somebody else takes over. We can always have that request as well to the firm. And I'm sure that they have turnover as well, so that's our recommendation.
So I know we're having this conversation because this comment was made that we should look at, you know, changing auditors just for the sake of ensuring that, you know, somebody's not being complacent or what have you, but it kind of sounds like that's not an option. So,
I did find another, oh, sorry. I did find another company that does municipal audits. But that's all I found out, that they do. I could give the company's name to CEO and for future time, for future years, if they want to look into it.
okay, so, and yeah, that's, yeah, if that's something you want to do. But I think for this evening, excuse me, I guess we just have to decide based on the motion that's been presented, how do we want to proceed? Do we want, like, there's dates listed, so I think we just need to decide
I
what
do
term,
have a question for CEO.
what term we want to go with the motion. Deputy Mayor Savoy?
So by you guys recommending this auditor again, is it for lack of availability of auditors, or are you actually satisfied with their result, their
Yeah, I've been very satisfied, and the services manager's also been working with Serge on this file. We've been very satisfied with the services we got, but in due diligence and making sure that the auditor and us don't get, too comfortable of a relationship or, just, it's recommended that local governments change their auditor every so often. It's easier said than done. And when I reached out to other, not just auditors, but other municipalities in our, I'm gonna call it listserv, because that's the old term, but our group, our network through AAMNB, there are some places that said that they haven't changed their auditor in 15 years just because they can't find somebody. And I know for sure that St. Andrews has had the same auditor for quite some time. They're not able to find somebody. However, working on the Municipal Finance Reporting Committee, so this is an initiative through the province of New Brunswick where the community finance team has put together the subcommittee. I think I've mentioned before that I'm on it. They have a consultant that they're working with, so I've taken advantage of that and asked them for their opinion. And with us being, Maple Hills being, brought to fruition in 2023, we're a very new local government. So it's not something that she said, if you're happy with your auditor, stay with them. And, after a few more years, start looking at other places. Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, like I said, it goes back to how long are we comfortable extending? It looks like they've offered, so what's here what they've offered to do?
Yes.
So they've offered to do so 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029, with the option of renewing for an additional up to 2 additional one-year terms. So are we comfortable with that? Are we asking for something different? It sounds like our options are fairly limited. You don't want to say goodbye to somebody and then be without. Councillor Martin?
Just being satisfied with the service coming from CAO Downey. I see no reason, if they're providing a quality service, they already know us, they know what we expect. I don't see this as unreasonable, especially if we're limited on options, so I am for it.
What's presented?
Exactly.
Okay. Everybody else? Okay, so does somebody want to move this motion? Okay.
Thank you, I didn't really want to read that one.
Whereas Section 71 of the Local Governance Act, SNB 2017 C18, requires the council of a local government to appoint an auditor to conduct an annual audit of the municipality's financial statements, and whereas staff undertook a review process by contacting multiple auditing firms to determine interest, availability, qualifications, and competitive pricing for municipal audit services, and whereas several firms advised that they do not provide municipal audit services, while others indicated they were unable to match the current fee structure due to market conditions and capacity constraints. And whereas, after considering the responses received, council is satisfied that the recommended firm provides the best overall value and continuity of service for the municipality. Now therefore be it resolved that Council of Maple Hills appoints Bourque Richard Bouteau PC Inc. as the municipality's external auditor for the fiscal years ending December 31st, 2026, December 31st, 2027, December 31st, 2028, and December 31st, 2029, with an option for the municipality to renew the engagement for up to 2 additional one-year terms. Be it further resolved that the mayor and chief administrative officer are hereby authorized to execute the required engagement agreements on behalf of Maple Hills.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Esty. Are we ready for the question?
Question.
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of appointing the auditor as presented in the motion, show your consent by saying yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. It would now take a motion to adjourn the final meeting of the 2023-2026 Maple Hills Council. Moved by Councilor Esty. Thank you.